Okay, sleepy Negro liar here of home team history is about to lie real bad to West African primitives and try to get them to believe that they were Ethiopians and try to get people to believe that the Greek Ethiopians were actually the people living in Abyssinia today, which has been changed to Ethiopia, and that's all just the same, and it's only them, and it's all about Negroids, and that the Greeks loved Negroids and things. But we're going to quickly get to the point here in a minute, and I'll show you what the Greeks talked about. Then you can see him fail all the way through it.
My, have things changed.
My, have things changed. Let's get you louder, man. Can I get you even louder? You never show up on my vids worth of crap till your later videos whenever you finally have good equipment. Ooh. Hey. Who have you?
What up, African world? It's your boy Home Team, man. I'm back at it with another video of African history, culture, and worldview. Today I want to talk about
what up, Hotep?
This ancient universal love for Ethiopians. Now in this video I'm going to be talking about modern day Ethiopians and the ancient term Ethiopian, which refers to,
and he's going to lie about both of them,
the black people as a whole, more immediately Sudanese people or Nubian people. And no,
and so now he goes, see, he keeps trying to put everything Nubians. If you saw my last one I did on it, he says the Ethiopians are Nubians and the Nubians are Egyptians and stuff. And it's like, dude, you're so mixed up and stupid. And then now he's going to try to pull off other stuff.
I haven't forgotten about you, Ethiopia. Look, my mom is Jamaican, and I can tell you, Jamaicans are obsessed with Ethiopians. I've heard about you guys my entire life, so I got you. Now let's be...
And I got you too. And low IQ Jamaicans don't know history worth a damn, but they do like to make up stuff.
Begin with one of the first documented love affairs with black people, the Greeks. Now we would think that the Greeks would talk extensively about Northern Europeans like the Celts and or Germanic tribes, but
and they did. And they talked about everybody actually all over the world and got information from him, but he's going to pretend that they hated white people and loved black people somehow. He's going to try to do that. Watch this.
The Europeans were not as popular within Greek thought as popular culture would have us believe. In fact, Greeks and Romans would frequently refer to their northern neighbors as barbarians.
Yeah, barbarians actually, people have noticed a long time ago that all that really equated to was bearded people, because the Greeks, if you'll look, all shaved except for their philosophers and things and gods. So they kept shaved, and if you looked at everybody that they were talking about, there was two factors that made it so. They would not learn Greek to be able to speak with them, so Greeks got pissed off because they had to learn their language. And these people wore beards, which they considered they didn't clean shave themselves. They weren't modern like the Greeks were. Alexander and his army and everything, it all goes along with that so well. And so when he says barbarians, he means not quite modern, but what he fails to say right now is that West African primitives, the most low IQ, dependent people on the planet, that are the least advanced that we have known of in the world, including Indians, including Indians and Eskimos. Yes, the lowest average IQ, and still they're the lowest average IQ on the planet. About them and Australian Aborigines peg at the bottom of the order. So you can imagine what comes out their mouth as knowledge and stuff and what you get off of it. So this is kind of like the blind leading the blind, and they just like the way he smiles and lies to them, and they're going to eat it up.
Granted, it was because the Greeks were largely ethnocentric, but also because they simply didn't see the Celts and Germanic peoples as civilized people.
Oh, yeah, they did. And they talked about how they didn't notice the stars and everything, and whenever they tried to go mess with them, they said that you can't mess with them, guys. They will kill you. Oh, my God, they go crazy. And they told stories about them and everything. He doesn't want to go into any of that, but I've gone into it in my videos. And if y'all have been for a while with me, then you know all the stories about them and the Proto-Indo-Europeans and how it leads in and We just did one about the oldest boat dock known in the world, 8,000 years ago, and predates Egypt and everybody, even the Sumerians and stuff, and it shows you what I've been trying to tell you all along. But this guy's trying to get Negroids that are primitives to believe that they was something special, and that's not true at all. We're going to get there in just a second. I want him to hang himself one more time.
To our modern-day romanticism of Europe, the Greeks seem to have very dissenting opinions when it came to their northern neighbors. One of the reasons why I like ancient Greece so much, mostly the intellectual Greek society, because the average Greek was blissfully unaware of what was going on in the scholarly community.
It's not true at all. The Greeks were one of the most learned people throughout history and stuff, and it wasn't just 5 people ran around and learned stuff and nobody knew anything, and they had large arenas where people would come and talk, and the general populace would come and listen and do things and blah blah blah. There were quite a few literates. They had all kinds of things going on, and you know what? We still mimic their money system and democracy and a lot of things today. What we don't mimic is anything that comes from Negroids whatsoever. They mimic from us. They eat our chicken, and they wear our clothes, and they worship to a Caucasian god now in the Bible. Oh yeah, believe it or not, they have tried to say that the Hebrew Bible is about black people. Oh my God, it's so disgusting. It's comical and disgusting at the same time. It's just like, how pathetic can you be? Say something more stupid, and then they say that. They'll get on my Egyptian videos, and I'll tell them they're non-biblical nor Egyptian, and then they start spouting about how they're in the Bible, and they give that old debunked bullshit again, and just, it's pathetic. Let's go on. One more. Hang yourself, bro.
And they were probably just trying to survive. But one of the reasons why I like ancient Greece is because they seem generally interested in learning and gaining knowledge and actually incorporating what they learn to affect their worldview.
Negroids have never done anything like this whatsoever. It'd be nice if they tried to catch in and help the white spaceman do something finally, but this is pathetic what he's going into here, and he's fixing to tell you that they love Negroes. Oh boy, and they cherished them, and I'm fixing to debunk that too. Just hold on a minute, wait for it.
And incorporate it into their society. And when they inquired about knowledge, philosophy, and the sciences, they didn't look toward the barbarians in the north.
And they sure didn't look at Negroids. They didn't have written language or anything. He wouldn't have even called them barbarians. They would have called them, like a lot of people did up until the last few hundred years, subhuman. But he's going to try to tell you subhumans is what they loved. Yeah, it's hilarious. Oh, come on now, say it so I can really debunk you and then show you how pathetic you are for the rest of it. It'll only take one thing to show you.
But they look towards the south, toward the beloved and precious Ethiopians.
Towards the beloved and precious Ethiopians. And he cocks his head like, and Weezum is. And so now we get to go. Now we get to see this. So what we're going to do is we're going to see actually 2 things here that are going to totally debunk anything that he has to possibly say. First of all, no, 3 things. 3 things, okay, guys? 1, West African primitives didn't know any of this existed. Oh, and that ends the whole conversation. But where is it that the Caucasian race used to be? Caucasian race. Where is it that it used to be? Now we know where it is, and we know there's Arabs in places and stuff too, and everything. But where is the Caucasian race? Well, it of course is in Europe. And you see Europe, Western Asia, and yeah, that's over there, Yemen and all into Asia, and Anatolia, or they call, Asia Minor and so on. Then Central Asia, which leads up above that, all off the edge of the Black Sea, over the edge of India, up into China, man. And of course, everything above that, and the rest of Russia and stuff, and it really goes all the way into the edge of China with the Tarim Basin mummies, but we're not going to go there. Where else does it go? South Asia, so they're saying it. Caucasians are even in India. Of course, that has to do with the Aryan thing, and the bottom side of that wouldn't be so much. North Africa, and what does that encompass? Oh my God. It encompasses all of North Africa. It was always Caucasians, and this has got Egypt inside of it too, and I don't want to hear any crying because West African primitives didn't even know it existed, so to just take a lie away from you probably take some weight off your shoulders. And then also the Horn of Africa, the Horn, where you would say the Ethiopians are now, where it really wasn't called Ethiopia, it was called Abyssinia in ancient days, right? So that's all I need to show about Caucasian race, and then you'll know, well, where are the Negroids? Well, There were some Nubians there, and later came a mix that turned into the Ethiopians you see today, which are actually 40 and 50% Caucasian admixed. Yeah, but no, what were the Greeks talking about when they talked about Ethiopians? Well, let's see. Ethiopians. They spelled it with an A, and you got to look at the Ethiopian, Ethiopian C, Ethiopia, Ethiopia, the Greeks. Is this the right one? Yep, this is the right one. So these are the people that made up the word. And no matter what, whenever they used it, they knew what the hell they were talking about. Stupid Negroids, jealous primitives, might try to make up whatever they can to try to get into it, but what did they talk about? Well, they talk about the earliest mentions were in works of Homer and twice in the Iliad, and he's going to say something about that later and try to make it into Negroids and Memnon and all this stuff, and there are no Negroids whatsoever in any of those stories. Of course. Have you ever read them? No, he's not even read them. He just covets. So let's just look at the picture here, and every brown spot that's in this picture is where they claimed Ethiopians were the Greeks. They wrote about them quite frequently. They're in love with them, but they don't know anything about Negroids. In fact, whenever they write the map here, they show you Sub-Sahara doesn't even exist. They talk about the Microbians and how they are beautiful, tall, white people that live long, long lives. And that's up in that same area. And they talk about the people that lived here that are farming, that some other people said were the earliest of people. So this is a hearsay, and whenever you see Herodotus say it, he goes, they say, these people say, and in fact, whenever he says it about the Ethiopians and the first and all that stuff, he says, you have to take it with a grain of salt. No one believes this, and it's bullshit. Basically, is what he breaks it down to. But worse than that, Meroe that's here is named after Persian Cambyses' sister. Yeah, that's it. And when you talk about Kandake and all that, that's really Candace. And again, we're talking about a Persian. Yeah, and you can see that, well, let's just look at the Caucasus Mountains. Those are Ethiopians. So now, Negroid, you have been professing a lie to these people and trying to dissuade Negroids into believing that somehow they weren't from West Africa way over here, which doesn't even exist. But somehow they're East African Caucasians, and they want you to believe that Ethiopian doesn't mean this place right here. No, they want you to believe it does. But what it really means is every farmer, for if you look at the Indus Valley, Araxes, Sogdians, and the edge of every river valley, it runs right into farmlands. River valley becomes farmlands. Sumeria, everything. This is what they call Ethiopians. So now when we go back and he tries to tell you that it means Negroids, it doesn't. Here's a simple thing too. The name Aethiops means sunburnt face. It is right here. Aethiops is a compound word derived from two Greek words meaning aethia, which I burn, ops face, according to the Perseus Digital Library, whatever, sunburnt face. So how do they have a sunburnt face when Negroes don't have a sunburnt face? I'm telling you, it's not about Negroids at all, and it never was, and it will never be. It's a lie. They can sit around and covet and whine all they want to about how they were West African primitives. It does not change the fact of what Ethiopians used to be and what they are now. And so all he has is a lie. Hey, did you see all those topics I have pulled up top right there? I've got 40 hours of video all logged up, ready to go, and I'm going into more of them. And I keep trying to do a few of them every night, but the more I do, the less views I get on each one. It seems like, unless I have a connective part 1, part 2, part 3, it doesn't seem to go like that. And also, part 2 always gets less, and part 3 even less than that. I know some of that are the fall-off people, and some of that are the Negroids that realize that I'm way too advanced and they can't touch it, might as well just back off. But, you know, it is what it is. So now that we've seen the truth of what he's trying to call Ethiopia and what the truth of the Greeks is, watch him make a fool of himself for the next little bit here.
AKA black people. Like I say many
AKA not black people.
times, Ethiopians to the Greeks referred to black African people.
No, it didn't one bit whatsoever. He's trying real hard to lie to you, but if you didn't see that map that I just told you and never knew, you're just going to believe some idiot Negro.
Within the continent in the interior of Africa.
Nope.
Mostly people from modern-day Sudan. Look, there's just no other way around it. Greek scholars and writers love black people,
and I think we just saw the fact that they never even spoke about black people, but they talked about all these farmers and these Ethiopians, and telling you that those people had an ancient religion and they were worshiping gods from the first of days. And West African primitives didn't even know anything that we're talking about existed, but they want to yap thousands of years later and say we was. And it's the most disgusting racist thing in the world that I can find today.
Credited them with being the originators of humanity and civilization. Didorius Siculus said, and I quote, "The Nubians are believed to be the first human race on Earth." And
no, he told you he was going to quote, and then he lied. It doesn't say the Nubians, it says the Ethiopians. He keeps trying to say Ethiopians, and they're Nubians, and the Nubians, and they're Egyptians and stuff, and try to make these stupid connections. And it does not make a connection. Otherwise, they wouldn't call them Nubians and Ethiopians. No, he doesn't say the Nubians. He says the Ethiopians. And the truth is Diodorus is writing it down after reading it, Herodotus and everything that's come, and he says they say they're the most ancient of people. Does that mean they are? No, it doesn't mean they are. It means they say that. He also says the people in India say they got giant ants as big as dogs, and they dig in the ground and dig up gold and stuff, but watch out, they can run fast as a camel and they'll kill you, so you have to be sneaky. He talks about giant bulls with thick skin, with giant horns that are so big they can't go forward, so they have to walk backwards just to graze. Yeah, and then Negroids are trying to grab onto this, and oh, he said dark skin, and yeah, so I've got dark skin too. I'm almost the color of him. Let's see if it can show up this time. I'm almost the color of him. And I'm an Irishman, and I don't even get out in the sun.
Most of their customs and traditions were adopted by the ancient Egyptians. He also said that the Ethiopians...
No, that definitely is not true. The Nubians did not give anything that adopted to the Egyptians. Nubians did not give anything to the Egyptians. The Egyptians mimicked and were subjugated under the Egyptians. And we all damn well know it, and any of their artwork and everything shows you that they are. And no, it didn't come from them, and no, nothing comes from them, but it's sad that he tries to sneak in little eyes. He's just going to keep putting little eyes, and he keeps trying to say Nubian whenever we're not even talking about Nubian, we're talking about Ethiopia. But see, you know that Nubians are real tar black Nilotics, and they sure as hell ain't the Egyptians. Well, if you look at the art of the Greeks he's talking about, they have red ochre males and pale women. So do the Minoans, Mitanni, Etruscans, all the people around here. It's the symbolic things Caucasians have went through, and so do those Egyptians. One thing that Negroids couldn't do is have a pale wife. They also, without admix, couldn't get as light as he is, and that's still darker than the Egyptians are shown on the wall. It's disgusting for him to try this, but he's not trying it. He's getting black people to believe it. No one else would believe it.
Were the first to honor the gods. Lactantius Placidus, a Roman grammarian and writer, writing from a Greek perspective, said, and I quote, "For the Ethiopians are said to be the justice of men, and for that reason the gods leave their abode frequently to visit them." And it doesn't...
See, here's what's funny is he doesn't even quote the damn thing right, is the most just of men. So he was talking about a righteous man and things that didn't go out of hand and didn't do wrong, and we're not going to ever connect that to Negroids with all their crime and the way they act. Hell, look at them right now trying to steal history and act a fool. Yeah, non-biblical? No, not in the Bible, not in Egypt, nothing. No, West African primitives are West African primitives. Can you get that through your head?
And just stop there. Black people were even included in Greek mythology. Homer himself is love-struck by Ethiopians, and frequently talked about them and their resplendent, godlike blamelessness.
And none of those were Negroids that they talked about in the Iliad and the Odyssey. Duh.
Greek mythology included black Africans like Memnon, Andromeda, Aethopes, Eurybates.
No, in fact, Aethopes just means tan. He's fixing to try to show Negroids dressed up in fucking Trojan clothes. How disgustingly sad.
and Ben Second, just to name a few. Like I said before, Poseidon himself had that jungle fever, and he would frequently visit Ethiopia.
Yeah, see, I'm named after Neptune. I've got that name, and so I damn well know that I know for sure he has no clue what the hell he's talking about. Poseidon, yeah, he visited Ethiopians and stuff. It talked about that. This is sea going and voyaging. How can you get in the sea and go all the way to the Ethiopians from there? You can't. Well, you can go all the way around the Red Sea and all the way around Africa and all the way around the Red Sea. No, it's something different and symbolic, and one thing's for sure, he never describes going in past the Egyptian Caucasians to some Negroid. Yeah, they want you to think that. Everybody loved Negroids, and no, nobody even knew they existed.
It came to beauty, civilization, and the overall respect of our humanity, the Greeks were the first to give black people credit.
No, they didn't. They gave no credit to black people whatsoever. They gave credit to Caucasians and farmers and all kinds of stuff, just like I've shown to you. And so you can see him lying through his teeth that he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Most black people today have no idea that the Greeks had an obsession with them.
They didn't.
Our understanding of Greek culture and Greek life stems largely from a culture that is vehemently opposed to that reality. Another love affair with African people relates more so with modern-day Ethiopia. Most people don't know who Prester John is today, but from the 12th to the 17th century, Europeans were obsessed with this dude. Now, around this time, Christian Europeans were fighting against Muslims in the Middle East, and they were really looking for an outside ally outside of Europe that would kind of help them out in this holy war that they were having.
That's crusades and stuff is what he's trying to talk about, and again, that didn't involve Negroids either. They were starting to be enslaved by Islam and everything now, and it went through 900 years before the Americas were even found. They were castrated and used as eunuchs and stuff and thrown away pretty much, or killed to keep from having to feed them or house them any further, just like the Islamic Moors say their day. And it's well written and well documented. And of course, the blacks weren't the Moors. That's another sad lie where they try to grip onto anything they can. We was. And the funny thing is everybody else knows you was West African primitives, and you was no part of this. But you claiming, and you yipping, and you're lying. And I just showed you where Ethiopia is. And damn well, all you got to do is look it up. Wiki, just Ethiopia, just look it up. Don't look up the one with the flag on it in the country today. Look at the Greek Ethiopian. There, ruins it all, doesn't it?
We're extremely desperate to find a Christian ally outside of Europe. So when
blacks are desperate to find a lie they can get that won't get debunked, and the only one that's going to work is we were West African primitives and didn't know none of this and had no part in it. Anything other than that's a jealous, sad lie, and it's racist too. Oh yes, definitely so. You're talking about other people and telling them what they did and didn't do, and most of them are Caucasians, and that's disgusting as hell, trying to claim somebody else whenever you were just the most primitive, illiterate people on the planet.
Rumors surfaced about this Christian king that was fighting the Muslims outside of Europe. They jumped on it. First they said he was located in Asia, then they said he was located in the Middle East, and then finally they placed this guy, Prester John, in Africa. They literally made this guy up out of thin air. So
they literally made this guy up of thin air, but he's going to try to tell you that he was in Africa. So that's funny. Now he said da-da-da. They look for him everywhere, but oh, he's a Negro. Oh, they just made it up out of air. And yeah, the picture that they showed a minute ago, did that look like a Negro? No, Prester John wasn't a Negro. Nobody named John ever was a Negro. You might find a Negro named John today taking a Caucasian name, but that's not a Caucasian name. None of the religion has to do with Negroids whatsoever. The Greeks don't have anything to do with it. All the writings have nothing to do with them, and it's pathetic that they try this.
Portuguese in particular were excited about this opportunity to meet this Christian king. So they made contact with Ethiopia trying to gain some political and social relationship. So finally, Ethiopian ambassadors were sent to Europe for a council. During this meeting, the Portuguese would frequently refer to the Ethiopian ambassador as Prester John. And apparently the Ethiopians were so confused that they actually stopped the meeting and was just like, who is Prester John? And then the Portuguese was just like, But at the same time, the Portuguese actually have a history of this. They did a similar thing to the Bunu people in Angola, mistaking the title of the king Angola for the name of the country. Pope Nicholas himself even wrote a letter to Prester John, or to these Africans, asking him and pleading with them to join the Catholic banner in this holy war, calling them...
Well, they were just one of the only Christians, one of the first people to adopt the Caucasian Bible, other than the Armenians, were the Ethiopians of the time. Of course, we're hundreds of years past the point. Things have changed a lot, and there ends up being some admix people in there, but there also still was Caucasian groups and stuff with them there. It wasn't all this mix that you see now. In fact, there are Caucasians there today, but you wouldn't want to admit that or say anything. And Lalibela, they say themselves, was made by white angels at night, but that kind of ruins anything too. And then they try to say, oh, we did great stonework, and like, other than this, show me one. And they can't, because it doesn't exist. And this is West Africans trying to talk, and it's like, how could you get over here? You never got over here. Come on, quit lying. It's disgusting.
As dear black Christians. Now, the continued love affair with black people from other ancient peoples comes in the form of the Christian Bible. According to the Bible, the Hebrew God himself compared his love to the Israelites for his love for black people. Wow.
No, he says the Ethiopians, and he's not talking about Negroids. He's talking about what I already showed you, that God that they talk about with the Greeks. Now, if you look at the Bible, he says that I don't care about anybody but Israel, and it's all about Israel. And Jesus, when he comes back, he says, I've only come for the flock of Israel. But they talk about how God had loved the Ethiopians and things too, because, well, the Sumerians, you know, that's where the Bible comes from, and that flood and everything else too. So there has to be some love for all these people that are connected, and all the 12 tribes and stuff, and God doesn't neglect. One thing that God did, though, is he never spoke about Negroids whatsoever, and he doesn't say West African primitives exist. In fact, there's a special quote in this one that I just did about John 3:16, where a guy pulls it out of the Bible and says, basically, he says that he doesn't know you. And he's talking about everybody else but the Israelites. He says, I've been concentrated on them, and I don't know the other people exist. But he's going to try to get you that believe that the white Caucasian God of the Caucasian Bible that doesn't mention Negroids whatsoever, just loved Negroids. And you can tell through time that he loved them and got that Jewish slave master to go over there and grab them up and make them turn themselves into the pitiful idiots that they are today, and they can't come out of it, and they sure as hell won't go home. It's the year of return, and they don't want to go home. They want to mooch and lie and see if I can steal your phone.
In the book of Amos, explaining how much he loves his chosen people, the God of the Israelites states, and I quote, "Are you not as the children of Ethiopians to me, O children of Israel?" According to this verse, his love for black people was their standard in which to explain how much he loved them.
That has nothing to do with Negroids. I don't want to pull the picture up again for you, but you can see all the places that this God had to do with. And what's funny is whenever you look at comparative religion, like I'm showing people in my other videos that aren't debunked videos, it shows you this connectivity between everybody. And the one thing that's not connected at all, well, many things are not connected. The one thing that's really positively not connected are any Negroids whatsoever to this religion or anything. They had voodoo and bullshit, and they didn't even know it existed. Now that they found out and they really, really want it, they're making up pathetic lies about it.
Verse alone alludes to the fact that his love for black people was a no-brainer. Last but not least,
it's a no-brainer. God doesn't love black people, and now that they blaspheme, lie, bear false witness, they don't have a single shot and chance in hell. Ha ha ha, badoom. But he's gonna keep yapping because he greedy. He get.
Muhammad himself, the prophet of Islam, what he had to say was very interesting, and I quote,
Muhammad is a redhead, and people to this day dye their beard with henna in remembrance of him, like he did himself whenever he reached earlier age, to dye it to the color of his youth. He's also related to the Queen of England in a long, drawn-out way, but Negroids aren't in any way. And that might show you the truth of the matter of the fact.
Leave the Ethiopians alone. Now,
yes, Negro, leave the Ethiopians alone. For ancient Ethiopians has nothing to do with the new, and the Ethiopians that live there today don't have sub-Saharan ancestry at all, and West African primitives didn't know they exist. Leave it alone. Shut your mouth.
Ahmed was referring to modern-day Ethiopians, more specifically the Abyssinian Empire. Yeah, I ain't forget about you.
Yeah, see, now he goes true that the place was never called Ethiopia. It was called Abyssinia all the way up until recent times. And those Muslims and Islamic slave trade started 900 years before. They were real interested in the Negroids. And I've got a video about some of the things they said about them and slave traders and other things about how ignorant they are and don't have marriage and they'll eat each other and all kinds of crazy things. And they eat snakes and lizards and other crawling things, and just terrible, terrible stories about what they did to each other, and just, you know, how vile they are. But he's going to try to get you to believe that they loved them.
Because apparently these Ethiopians provided refuge for Muslims escaping persecution, and many Muslim people felt in debt to these Ethiopians for it.
Funny that the Ethiopians have a huge admix from those people that they're talking about, and they don't feel like they're in debt in any way, shape, or form for it. For the Ethiopians feel like they're in debt for what happened.
The very first place Islam spread was in Africa, and many Africans embrace Islam. This one statement plays into a larger historical theme concerning
the Islamics rode over North African Caucasians that had been there primordial from ever and spread Islamic beliefs into Africa, and it didn't have anything to do with Negroids. And then they found out the hookup that the people had with the Amazigh and stuff, and they started exploiting it, definitely.
And the uniqueness of Black Africans and their relevance in other cultures. If we take the collective ancient view of Black African people into consideration and compare it to today's view of Black African people, there's a huge contrast there. So,
yeah, they used to be just subhuman primitives that didn't have any sense. Now they have new clothes on and have just about enough sense to make fools of themselves. It's a radical difference.
Home team, what does all this really mean? Who cares that Black Africans were held in such a high esteem in the ancient world?
They weren't.
What does that mean for us today?
It means nothing, because he's lied all the way through it. I just showed you the picture where Ethiopians were, and they weren't ever talking about Negroids, and even gave up the Abyssinia thing. But let's continue.
Popular opinion can change very swiftly throughout the course of time. And if this ancient model of the beloved, resplendent, blamelessly godlike Ethiopian can be abandoned and exchanged for the despised, lowly, savagely blameworthy Negro, then who's to say that we can't change the meaning of Black again? Our agent...
You can't change the name of Black by coveting, lying, and bearing false witness and pulling out this racist BS like this. It's not going to work for you. What do you think? The rest of the world's going to try to go for this crap whenever they know the truth, and you're just making up a desperate lie?
See, in this world is not limited to how we are viewed, nor is it dependent on our denigrated image. We must become the masters of our own story.
You're going to make up BS and have everybody hate you for the rest of mankind for lying, coveting, and bearing false witness. Idiot Negro, stop. You need to take this one offline. I've just debunked it, and the other three. You need to take them offline and remake new ones where you don't try to claim that everybody loved Negroids and stuff, and then you can keep the savage part in there, and the part that they made themselves into that, and they've given themselves the reputation, and now we can see what they do and act like and try to covet things and lie, and they're giving themselves this reputation. They won't be able to get out of it by lying.
It's your boy, I'm saying, know thyself, remember your answer.
It's your boy Neptune. Remember that Negroids are liars, and they weren't any part of Egypt or anything, and that Greeks didn't love them. They didn't even talk about them. Whenever they're talking about Ethiopians, it was Caucasian farmers that have sunburnt faces, and this man can't get a sunburn. Just realize that and know every time some black guy tries to pull some bullshit, but also know that West African primitives aren't related and didn't even know the place that we call Ethiopia today existed. Like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy. Peace.